Hello everyone, welcome back to a brand new video. I'm Carl here at Stacey Guitar Tuition, and today we're here to talk about a very special album, and that is Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park. So let's get into it. So there's certain albums throughout history of music in general, of course we've touched on a few of them in this little series that I'm doing so far, that completely change music forever. And if you are in the alternative, the metal, the rock scene, whatever, if you're a similar age to me or older, you're gonna remember this album. You're gonna remember the first time you heard it, the first time you experienced it, the first time you seen the artwork, the first song that you heard, the first music video that you heard, and it's just unbelievably, generationally impactful in so many different ways. So I wanted to dedicate this video today talking about that album a little bit. So let's rewind all the way back to the late 90s, early 2000s. You already had bands like Deftones, Limp Bizkit, kind of similar time period as Slipknot, but they were already around as a band. They already existed. They already had music out, although they weren't a household name yet. And all these other bands, okay? Linkin Park came along and offered something a little bit new, a little bit different to all those other bands. Same thing, and it's very interesting to think about because technically a band like Limp Bizkit and a band like Linkin Park offered the same thing in terms of you were to like sort of write it down on paper or explain or describe it, and that is that whole combination of metal guitars, rapping vocals, maybe some catchy choruses, that sort of thing, the whole hip-hop metal thing that had been done before previous to this, with sort of like Run DMC, Aerosmith, etc. But for some reason, this Linkin Park thing was a little bit new, it was a little bit different, it was a little bit more, dare I say, interesting, to be completely honest with you, and I'm sure a lot of people would also agree with that. I love Limp Bizkit, I love all those songs, really fun memories, really good times. But of course, you'll probably agree that didn't impact you deeply or on an emotional level or anything like that. That was never the idea of Limp Bizkit, I don't feel, right? It's all about just the angst and having a good time and the bounciness of it and singing along and things like that. Linkin Park offered the same thing, but they offered heart, they offered soul, they offered emotion, they offered deeper, more meaningful lyrics and things like this that people were ready for, I think, and that's part of the reason why I think this band and this album really popped off when it did. I think people were just ready to hear something authentic, something honest, something from the heart, but still kind of fun, still something you can sort of sing along to and have a little bit of a good time to, depending on the song, of course. Of course, we need to address Chester Bennington, this whole thing, right? Of course, I believe every single member, whether it's old or new, of Linkin Park have been kind of, they've been needed for the formula of the music and of the band and of the image and of the impact of the band that has happened from this album onwards in so many different ways. They've all offered something. You can't have this band without the members that have been or are in this band. But of course, Chester Bennington just being one of the most unique, you don't know how to describe it, right? You know what I mean? If you're watching this video, you know what I mean. He's just one of the most unique sounding people in terms of his voice, his tonality, how he screams, how he delivers the vocals was just raw, authentic, new, fresh at the time. And that never really died out, of course, although it might not have been like new, fresh, different 5-10 years down the line of the career of Linkin Park. It was still, you heard his voice, you knew it was him, you heard his voice, it either made you laugh, smile, cry, whatever it may be. A lot of the time, that ended up being the more emotional thing. It stirred up the more emotional aspect of listening to the music and connecting and resonating with the lyrics, of course, which is why the love for Chester has always been and always will be so strong, deeply strong. So many people resonated and connected with that guy and continue to this day. So you really have to address that in this kind of scenario here. At the same time, of course, the powerhouse of Mike Shinoda as well. Like, it was just that dynamic duo of Chester and Mike that just took this band from what was probably just a cool idea, a cool concept, a mixing of a couple of different styles that are awesome to listen to and work together, and just took it to that whole next level. You've got Mike rapping, which is just his rap style is very, I would like to say, kind of at times quite simple, especially if you compare it to traditional rappers or most other rappers. I feel like it's very straightforward, very simple in terms of the delivery of the lyrics and the words and things like that. But again, I think that's why people resonated with that as well, because you didn't have to worry about like listening to what the words were, or worrying about how fast he was going to be rapping, because a lot of the time it was kind of mid-paced. A lot of the time the lyrics are quite straightforward and simple to read or listen to and hear and remember or copy back, like In the End, for example. Combined with, of course, the raw, authentic choruses delivered from Chester. The screaming and the intensity of the screaming is super, super, super on an emotional level. A lot of people scream, a lot of people have screamed, a lot of people continue to scream, but they don't scream in the same way. A lot of the time people will scream from pure just angst or pure aggression or something else, right? Not every person that screams or does fry vocals can deliver it on an emotional level and make you feel something. For me, some of those people to name would be Chester, another one would be Charlie Simpson, and I'm probably missing off a few more, but there's a handful of people throughout kind of the history of music that I feel like can access that thing, and he was definitely one of them. Let's take a little minute just to reminisce for a second. I want to say, what is the first memory that you have of this album? What is the first memory that you have listening to it? The first music video that you saw? How that made you feel? How that impacted you? I'm sure we all have these things. I'm sure we all have these memories of this album in its infancy, when it came out a year or two later, or even now if you're just discovering it 10 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later, whatever it may be. I would love to hear your stories and your thoughts and things like that. For me, I can tell you that I'm pretty sure the first music video that I saw was One Step Closer, maybe roughly at the same time as Papercut. I'm struggling to remember which one it was first. I was quite young and watching Kerrang sort of religiously at the time. It was one of those two. Most likely One Step Closer, because I have it sort of ingrained in my brain of the picture of that music video, the setting of that music video being in the sort of underground thing with all the cool lights and seeing all the coloured hair and everything that they had at the time, and the classic nu metal sort of bob your head and nut the floor type moves and stuff like that. And I remember listening to the album for the first time in full. It was on a portable CD player, I'm pretty sure, with headphones. The CD was one that my brother, who was significantly older than me, probably more of the target demographic for the band at the time, really. Bit of a hand-me-down. He sort of just let me listen to it or let me borrow it or whatever. I think eventually that CD became mine for whatever reason, but at the time it wasn't. I remember listening to that. I remember seeing the artwork back when you would open it up and read all the lyrics and all those things. The portable CD player, like the music videos. This is all so uber 2000s and nostalgic already, right? So what was your experience? What do you remember? This album really changed everything for me. I still believe that to this day. And it changed the scope of music to come. I mean, think about all the metal bands and metalcore bands now that have Chester Bennington, Linkin Park sounding choruses that try to tap into the emotional screaming. Maybe that's have elements of rapping or hip hop in there. The simple sort of guitar parts. Like, I haven't touched on every musician in this band, right? But like I said, like obviously the guitar parts are incredible. The bass sits exactly where it should. The drums were always simple, but again, sitting exactly where they probably should sit to serve the song. We've already addressed all the vocals, the scratching, obviously very of the time, all of the sampling, all these sorts of things, just really added a lot of depth and layers and things like that to the band, so it's been really cool to listen to as well. But round this video off now, what do you think, what do you feel, what are your fond memories? I really truly believe that this album changed the scope of music and metalcore and nu metal and all of these things from the minute that it hit the shelves back in the early 2000s, and now we're in 2026 still talking about it and still listening to it. Thank you very much once again for watching this video though, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace!